Alright. Let's just take a quick look. So right, see? 1, 2, 3. 3 left to go. Ooh, this one was definitely shorter than James, obviously. Disoriented by the sudden loud noise that awoke me, I fumble around my end table trying to switch on my table lamp. What was that? I blurt. Gray groans as the light from the lamp disturbs his sleep. Probably nothing. Let's go back to sleep, Valkii. My mind starts racing regardless, inventing possible explanations for the noise. I can feel the sleepiness recede from me as I recall Ivan's earlier visit. No way this could be just a coincidence. It's revenge. Or was she just overreacting and it was like, I don't know, trash can falling over outside? I don't know. I immediately sit upright, rushing out of bed before grabbing an oversized t-shirt. I hastily put it on to cover up my lingerie as I prepare to leave the room. Gray groans behind me as I reach for the door handle, still half asleep. I'm going to figure out what's going on, I announce. Perhaps it's my panicked mind playing tricks on me, but I swear I hear movement downstairs as I run into the living room. The smell of smoke enters my nose and the feeling of dread skyrockets. Where is it coming from? Why is Gray being so, like, passive? That's so weird. That's actually so weird, right? Why is he being passive? I open the door to the hallway and am hit by a heat wave of flames. The fire alarm starts blaring immediately. The entire downstairs is illuminated from what looks to be a somewhat small fire, the light casting dancing shadows on the walls. It's as beautiful as it is terrifying. For a moment, I stand there staring at it, absolutely bewitched. Then I come to my senses. Gray, wake up! We need to get out! Now fully woken up, Gray runs into the living room in a panic, still pulling his clothes on. What's happening? Is this real? Are you sure the alarm's batteries aren't low or something? He asks. There's a fire downstairs, I say, trying to keep my voice from shaking. We'll have to get out using the balcony. I run into my bedroom to grab our phones. As I enter, I catch sight of a dark figure running away from the rear entrance to the boutique. The figure retreats towards a parked car. Once inside it, the driver speeds off with the car lights still off. I don't have time to speculate or chase after anyone. I need to get out of here safely. I grab the box I packed. See? It described her doing it. Thus it happens. I grab the box I packed before with all my important documents and head over to the balcony. Emerging onto the balcony, I lug my box over to the railing and drop it down to the ground below. Hopefully the fragile stuff survives the journey. While Gray does the same thing with his box, I whip out my phone and dial 112 to report the fire. Where is 112? 112. For Europe. I mean, it makes sense. I don't think Celiana lives in America or something. There's too many European-ness in here. I point out the folded emergency ladder secured to the side of the building. Gray immediately gets to work on taking it down and setting it up. While he secures our escape, I inform the emergency operator on what's happened and where to send the fire department. Once the ladder fully descends to the ground, Gray waves me over. Ladies first? He sweeps his arm out dramatically towards the balcony's railing. I cross mine in response, unamused by his apparent attempt to lighten the situation. Gray, I hardly think now's the time to. Valkii, please, I insist. As we lock eyes, I see emotions swirling in his that I didn't expect. Fear, worry, disbelief. Perhaps it's because I actually saw and spoke to Ivan when he invaded the boutique earlier, but a large part of me expected something like this to happen. I spent so much time today preparing a defense against whatever move Ivan might make. Focusing on facing a grim future helped me to steel myself mentally. When I heard noises tonight and saw someone running away from my shop, it didn't shock me. I saw this coming. I think it's different for Gray. For so long, it's been him battling Ivan. Seeing Ivan switch targets to attack me, knowing that the reason he's in my life now is because of Gray, it must feel terrible. Following Gray's wishes, I make my way down the ladder and onto the safe pavement below with Gray just a few seconds behind me. Dang. Once both safely on the ground and awaiting the arrival of the fire department, I study my boutique. Smoke is fuming out of the windows, with the flames dancing behind the glass. The knowledge that everything I've dreamed for and worked hard to achieve is burning inside is just really hard to bear. I had hoped that by focusing on preparing for the worst and responding to the emergency as it arose, I wouldn't have time to feel heartbroken. But now that I'm safe on the pavement outside, there's nothing to shield me from the harsh reality of the situation. Almost everything I own might burn. Fighting back tears, I pull Gray in a tight embrace, hoping the warmth of my arms can bring some comfort. I hold my body to his, needing his touch just as much as I suspect he needs mine. We're gonna be okay, I assure both him and myself. But your shop. The fire brigade should be here soon. I'm sure they'll be able to salvage it. Gray's hands ball up into tight fists. And if they can't? Insurance should help me rebuild, I answer. His frown deepens, his eyes glued to my building. Maybe we can put out the fire. Maybe it's still pretty small. It hasn't... Does it look small? Maybe it's still pretty small. It hasn't been that long since the alarm started going off. Gray reasons. Though I'm surprised by his proposal, I start to consider running back inside. The sooner the fire is stopped, the more likely it is that my shop will be saved. I don't think it's worth the risk, Gray. Worst case, I have to find a new location for Olympus. I could make that work. I have all the important stuff with me. At first, I just gesture over to the boxes that Gray and I chucked over the side of my building, but then I realized it would be better to show him. Leading him over by the hand, I open the boxes and share their contents. I packed everything up I thought I would need, as well as the things I would want the most, I explain. Though I'm hoping that the firefighters come soon and I don't lose much. Everything left inside is replaceable. Damn, Valkii, Gray says, looking impressed. You did all this after Ivan came by yesterday? While Gray praises me as we look through my things, I start to panic. I can't find my design book, I say. I dig through the boxes in a frenzy, numerous times over, searching for my prized sketchbook consisting of my life's work. It's not here. I wring my hands out in frustration. That sketchbook means everything to me. I can't move forward without it. Losing all my designs would set me back almost a decade. Gray squats down next to me and my things, concern clearly visible in his eyes. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I'll help you look. As the two of us look over the stuff we salvaged, it dawns on me that the box I packed full of paperwork for my business as well as my sketchbooks isn't here. I turn towards the burning building, a look of horror etched across my face. It must still be in the boutique. Evidently, I never moved that box upstairs to join the others. My fingers twitch towards the keys stuffed into my robe's pockets. I have to go back in. Swallowing the rising lump in my throat and ignoring my shaking hands, I look up at Gray. Were you serious about trying to fight the fire? I ask hesitantly. One corner of his lips tilts up to form a half smile, and the glint in his eyes makes him appear downright reckless. I'd do anything for you, Valkii. Even something as stupid as amateur firefighting, Gray says. I know what I'm thinking is crazy. I know I should stop myself from even contemplating it. But even so... Let's do it, I say determined. I take off running towards the back door with Gray's footsteps following just seconds behind. Time is of the essence. At any second, the flames could reach the extremely flammable contents of what I want to save. Not to mention the fact that our lives will be at risk. I think my cat wants to go out. I don't remember if I read this. Not to mention that the fact our lives will be at risk. Ignoring my inner voice of reason pleading for me to turn back, I jam the key into the latch and pull the back door open instead. The first thing that hits me is the heat. The second thing is the destruction of what I hold dear. Down the hallway, the entire floor of the storefront is engulfed in fire. Flames lick at the fabrics of the displayed clothes, turning the myriad of colours to black ashes. Curls of smoke billow up towards the ceiling, causing Gray and I to cough even though we're a good distance from the fire. It's grown an incredible amount in the minutes since I last saw it. Shit, Gray says. This is really advanced. No way this started naturally. Even in the short time it takes him to speak, I can see the flames inch closer towards the back half of the building. Whoever was here committing the arson, likely Ivan himself, must have put something down on the floor as fuel for the fire to spread faster. We can't fight this, Valkii. We shouldn't go in. Gray tugs on my wrist, wanting for me to step away to safety. No, I can't give up. Not on my business, not on my future. I have to save those sketchbooks. Knowing I don't have much time before the fire starts spreading down the hallway, I bolt into the building. What are you doing? Come back, Gray calls out after me. Now inside, I feel the full impact from the heat of the fire and the strength of the smoke. My eyes start to water and my body starts to sweat as I run into the boutique's back room. The fire hasn't reached this room, thank God. Almost immediately I spot the missing box. I struggle trying to lift it, the contents much heavier than I remember. Valkii, get out of there, Gray shouts. Hearing the panic in his voice causes my racing heart to pump even faster. I need to move. Grunting from the effort, I manage to lift up the box and everything inside. Wasting no time, I turn back and run out of the building with it. Slamming the back door shut, I collapse to my knees in a fit of coughing. Gray rushes over to me, helping me to set down my rescued goods before pulling me up into his arms. What the hell was that, Valkii? You could have died. I had to take the risk, I say firmly. Though my actions were incredibly rash, I stand by them. I need those sketchbooks. Gray looks more distressed than I've ever seen him. Nothing is worth your life, Valkii. Nothing. As I put myself in his shoes, guilt starts to swirl within me. How would I feel watching Gray run into a burning building? I can barely stand the risks that came with him running an illegal poker ring, and that isn't putting his health on the line. It was your idea to go in, I offer lamely. That was when I was estimating the fire to be fairly small, something we could realistically put out ourselves, not something that's burning entire rooms down. Tears pool in the corner of my eyes as I recall the sight of furniture burning and fabric turning to ash. I spent hours designing and making the clothes housed within those walls. I put so much effort and heart into my work. They burned in seconds. Seeing my expression, Gray visibly softens. Come on, let's move away from here to where it's safe, he says gently. Gray grabs the box and places it among the others. Still feeling too overcome with emotion, I find it hard to process his encouragement to relocate. Gray returns, takes my hand in his, and guides me over to the same safe spot. Gray returns to me the security of his embrace, this time at a much more comfortable level of pressure. I rest my head against his chest, close my eyes, and focus on the sound of his heartbeat as I try to block out all the stress and disastrous circumstances. Not long after that, the fire brigade arrives and attempts to quell the flames ravaging my boutique. Please save my boutique, I plead with them. We'll try anything we can, but please stay back, ma'am, one of them warns me. While they work, Gray rubs my back while he holds me and wipes away my tears as they fall. I've never experienced anything remotely close to this, and I hope to never again. I feel so incredibly worn out both emotionally and physically. Shortly after the firefighters' arrival, a police car pulls up and parks. 2 police officers emerge from their squad car and make a beeline for us. Though I bristle at the thought of being questioned by cops, especially at such an emotional moment, it would be great if they could do something to protect me against Ivan. I don't want him to get the chance to do something like this ever again. I glance over at Gray and nod discreetly towards the vehicle. Well informed of his history with law enforcement in addition to his current predicament with Ivan. You don't have to be here for this, I whisper. I don't want you to put yourself in danger. You've done more than enough. If you need me here, even the slightest amount, I want to be here, he answers firmly. More than happy to have him by my side, I drop the issue. A police officer makes eye contact with me as he approaches us. Are you Valkii Herf, the registered owner of this business? One officer, a man, asks me. Yes, that's me, I confirm. We are going to need to ask you some questions about the fire. I feign a smile at the officer. Of course. I'll give you some space, Gray says, backing away. The policeman and I split off to where we can hold a private discussion. He pulls out a notebook and faces me. Miss Herf, the fire department is still working on putting the fire out. Once they do that, they can officially determine the cause. Is there anything you can think of that could have started this fire? Anything that stood out to you or seemed amiss in the hours leading up to this? Nothing right beforehand, though I did see someone run out from inside the first floor and into a car shortly after the alarm started. It was the fire alarm that woke me up. He scribbles my response down in his notepad. Do you usually sleep here? Can you describe the vehicle you saw? He asks. Yes, I live in the apartment on the 2nd story, I say honestly, and it was a black sedan. I couldn't discern the make or model. Are you aware of anyone who would want to hurt you or your place of business? Yes, and he came by my shop yesterday to threaten me. His name is Ivan Novak. The officer looks up at me sharply. What was he threatening you about? He wanted to acquire my shop, and I refused. This isn't the first time he's asked, and he's progressively been getting more agitated when I turn him down, I answer. I begin to feel uncomfortable as the questions start to center around Ivan, unsure of how much I should say. I don't want to drag Gray into this, if I can help it. I don't want to give Ivan a reason to go after him more aggressively. You think he orchestrated an attack on your business because you wouldn't sell it to him? I give him a shrug, trying to mask my nervousness with the appearance of nonchalance. Your guess is as good as mine, I say. All I can say for certain is that he's been harassing me for a while now. I do know he led the Riverside gang back in high school and could be really aggressive over territory. Maybe he didn't like that an academy alumnus started a business so close by. The officer raises an eyebrow. That doesn't seem like it would be worth committing a crime and risking jail for. I guess that depends on what his priorities are and how confident he is that he'll get away with it. I'm guessing arson doesn't typically leave a lot of evidence behind, I muse. Not normally, but there's always a chance, he states matter-of-factly. Anyone else you can think of that we should speak to? I continue to answer the police's questions to the best of my ability, while not giving away too much information about our situation with Ivan. By the time we've finished, it feels like hours have passed. I'm more than ready to be reunited with Gray. Relief floods through me as I catch sight of his face. How are you? Did they question you too? I ask apprehensively. Don't worry about me. The whole conversation took like 2 seconds to get over with, Gray says, reassuring me. I look up at Gray, feeling on edge. I told him about Ivan, that he's been bothering me. I didn't mention you, but I'm worried that... Gray holds up a hand to stop me. Don't worry about me. You did the right thing by telling them. But what if... Valkii, Ivan tried to kill you. I'm far more concerned about that than I am his dumb blackmail. Anger flickers in Gray's eyes as he speaks about Ivan, but it vanishes as his focus returns to me. What are we going to do about him? What should I do about Olympus? I feel an incredible uncertainty and uneasiness about my future now. I've never imagined a life outside of tailoring, and I don't want to begin to now. I don't know yet, he responds, but we'll figure it out, together. Gray smiles warmly at me as he slings an arm around my shoulder. Hours pass by with us watching the firefighters work their equipment and move in and out of the building. By the time the sun starts to rise, they have tamed the flames. One responder walks over to Gray and I, ready to brief us on the situation. The man shakes his head solemnly as he approaches. I brace myself for bad news, reaching for Gray's hand to hold. He informs us that they weren't able to contain the fire in time. The damage to the structure is severe enough that this place is no longer habitable. It'll have to be demolished. They found evidence of gasoline and matches, clearly pointing to arson. Despite all my efforts to manage my expectations, it still hurts to hear. Olympus is gone. When the firefighter leaves and it's just the two of us, I can feel the weight of Gray's stare watching me. I know he's worried, but I can't bring myself to meet his gaze. He gives me some space to digest the news, but keeps hold of my hand. Valkii. I don't know who that is. Oh, yeah, Sarah. A familiar voice interrupts my brooding. I look over to find Sarah and Jed walking over to us, concern clear as day across their faces. My eyebrows lift in surprise at the sight of my best friend, along with my spirits. I stretch my arms out towards Sarah, signaling that I need a hug from her. She obliges. What are you guys doing here? I ask. Gray texted us a little while ago. He said you could really use a friend. Sarah replies. What exactly happened? Jed asks. He and Sarah both look worried about the presence of the responders and the sight of my stuff on the ground in boxes. The fire burned nearly everything by the time the fire brigade got it under control. The building will be condemned, Gray informs them. Ivan was behind this, I'm sure of it, I say bitterly. Ivan Novak, Sarah exclaims in surprise. I knew he was messing with you, but why would he go this far? It's a long story, Gray replies smoothly. We can get into that in a second, but for now, let's talk about what we can do for Valkii. The group nods in agreement. I find my lips curving upwards, despite all the drama of these 24 hours. Right now, I'm surrounded by the people who care for me the most. We'll figure out where to go from here, I'm sure of it. Right, next chapter. Out in front of the building that used to serve as my boutique before it was set aflame late last night, a crowd gathers. As it turns out, Sarah texted Nikki what happened, who texted some others of our old gang, who texted more members, and so forth. Not to be outdone, many of the capo have also come by after Jed and Gray spread the message about Ivan's attack, and within a few hours of the sun rising, dozens of people have arrived to show their support and share their condolences. I can't help but feel a little overwhelmed by all of the attention, especially before I've even had time to process everything. This is crazy, I whisper to Gray. The building is practically still smoking, for Pete's sake. What can I say? The people love you, Gray winks. More like people have a morbid curiosity about what a burned-down building looks like. I shoot back. Nah, it's mostly the love thing. Ivan's aggressive territory takeover has hurt us all in some way or another. We like to be there for each other when we can. Speaking of which, he says, trailing off. Gray clears his throat loudly until he has drawn the attention of the crowd. Once everyone has quietened down, he begins speaking in a loud, clear voice. Thanks for coming, everyone, Academy and DeCapo alike. As we all know by now, Ivan launched a brutal attack on the business owned by the Valkyrie last night. Gray gestures to what remains of Olympus behind us. This wasn't the first place Ivan's targeted. I'm sure most of us recall the recent attack on a bar called Wasted, which used to be Academy territory. Many Academy gang members in the crowd nod their heads, along with a few DeCapos. The Riverside's territory expansion has been brutal on both our gangs, but for so long we never thought to work together to fight against them. Gray now looks over at me, a proud smile on his face. The Valkyrie changed that when she asked for us all to band together and help her in her business when Ivan put the shop at risk a few weeks ago. And it was an amazing success. I'm sure many of us have fond memories of Olympus, Gray continues. A few more nods and smiles from the crowd, from members of both gangs. Which is why what happened here last night is such a tragedy. It was the first time we came together, and now it'll have to be the second. Gray speaks more passionately now, seeking to psych up his audience. Let's help the Valkyrie here today, and then tonight, let's all go after the Riversiders and end this once and for all. No more attacks, no more victims. The Da Capos readily begin to cheer and pump their fists in the air. Also moved by Gray's speech, the Academy members soon follow suit. I beam at Gray, proud to be with such a kind-hearted and charismatic individual. I move to stand close to him, placing my hand on his shoulder. Thank you, Gray. I whisper, that show was something. Glad you enjoyed the show, he winks. Now let's see if it's safe to go inside and start cleaning up. By now, the building has cooled enough to enter. Before they left, the fire department did inform us that the damage to the structure of the building wasn't too severe. I thought it was so severe that it had to be condemned. We should be able to enter and move about freely, though we'll have to proceed with caution. Seeing the smouldering remains of my store makes my breath catch in my throat. Piles of ashes where clothes used to be are scattered throughout the blackened floor. Tears pool in my eyes as I recall the hours spent designing and sewing all the garments within my boutique. It's just time. I can rebuild. I try to take deep breaths to steady myself, trying to focus on the fact that my insurance payment will allow me to find a new location for Olympus. It'll all be okay. I'll have a shop again soon. My dream hasn't been taken from me just yet. As the others enter the building and take in the depressed, destroyed state of my boutique, they glance over at me with pity in their eyes. Sarah and Jed take control of the groups, giving out orders on how to clean things up as well as take stock of what's been lost and what can be salvaged. Personally, I don't do much besides pace across the floor space, grieving what I've lost. Are you alright? Gray asks. My mouth twists into a grimace. Not really, if I'm being honest. Seeing the effects of the fire so close up is a lot to take in. He comes to stand beside me where the cash register used to be. It's now just a lump of metal resting on the ground. Tell me what's on your mind, Gray says gently. I don't want Ivan to get away with this, I say through gritted teeth. My fists clench as I continue to survey the damage of the place I had loved most. He hurt something so incredibly precious to me. I don't want him to walk away unscathed, I insist. He won't, Gray says firmly. Taken aback by the strength and readiness of his answer, I turn to Gray in surprise. What makes you so sure? Are you planning to do something to Ivan? Gray shakes his head back and forth, a solemn look settling across his face. I wouldn't say I have a plan just yet, just an idea for something that might work. I still need the opportunity to put it into action. Before our conversation can continue, someone else approaches us. Valkii, Sarah interrupts. A few of us were talking and we want to put a fundraiser together to help you rebuild. That's really sweet of you guys, but it's totally not necessary. I say, my insurance should cover at least the majority of what I need. I just called them recently to make sure. At least let us put up a post on the internet about it. Sarah pouts. If people really want to help, I think they should be able to. After some more arguing back and forth, I eventually throw my hands up in surrender. Oh, all right. I sigh. You win. I guess I shouldn't fight you so hard when you're trying to do something for my benefit. I just don't want people to spend their money on me when I'm sure to be all right. Yay! I promise I'll make the insurance coverage thing super clear. Sarah smiles. This will just be for those who want to show you a little extra support. As Sarah walks away triumphantly after receiving my blessing, Gray can't help but look a little impressed by her. Taking notes on how to argue with me? I joke. Oh, definitely, Gray agrees. As much as I love how willful you are, I love taming that into submission even more. Patooey. I playfully smack him on his bicep, making him laugh. Don't make me sound like some kind of animal, I say lightly. Gray waggles his eyebrows at me suggestively, but we both know that's exactly what you are when you're alone with me. Keep this up and I'll smack you again. As much as I try to pretend this is some kind of serious warning, a smile fights its way into my face anyway. Go ahead, give in to your urges. You'll only be proving my point, Gray teases. I throw my hands up into the air in surrender, laughing. You are way too much for me to handle sometimes, you know that? Gray shoots me a downright devilish smile. Oh, believe me, I know, and I'll keep reminding you of that fact over and over and over. Unable to take any more of his teasing, I wrap my arms around his neck and stretch up on my toes until I can press my lips against his. As we kiss, some of the others in the room start to notice and begin to whoop and holler at us. Gray ignores them, encasing me in his arms. He happily returns my affection. When our lips part, I settle back down on my feet with a knowing smile on my face. It's certainly an effective way to halt Gray's unceasing teasing. Well played, he says, grinning. You as well, I reply honestly. I know you were trying to brighten my mood. It's sweet that you sought to distract me from, well... My arm gestures to my ruined boutique in a grand sweeping motion. From how crappy my life is right now. Or the Olympus part of it anyway. Thanks for helping me remember there's still good things in it too. Anytime, Valkii. I love putting a smile on your face. Gray beams at me with a warm smile of his own before nodding his head over in the direction of the main area of the store. Ready to start cleaning this place up? Gray asks me. Of course, it wouldn't be right to expect everyone else to do everything for me. I want to pull my own weight, I answer. Alright then, Valkii, let's get to work. The two of us approach Sarah and Jed for a breakdown of the groups and tasks assigned to them. Sarah and I soon lead the charge on sorting out the salvageable items, while Gray and Jed handle a lot of the heavy lifting. When lunchtime comes, we all chip in some money to have a pizza delivered. When the food arrives, we all find spots to sit on the newly swept floor. I hope we got more than one pizza, because even a really big pizza it would not be enough for all the people that turned up. There's no escaping the fact that it would be much more comfortable if we all went to a restaurant together, seeing as I no longer have furniture for people to sit on. Even so, we don't want to take the chance that anyone will overhear our conversation. So, earlier today I mentioned putting an end to our feud with Riverside, Gray says in a loud, clear voice. Here's how we're going to do it. He stands in front of the two gangs. Almost immediately, everyone's attention is fixated on him. We all want to know how to take Riverside down. This is the first time so many of us have been on the same page. Even when both gangs were helping me sew the large amount of garments needed to participate in the charity showcase, a limited number of people showed up. Fighting the Riversiders is something nearly all of us are on board with. Too many of us have seen the places and people we love get hurt. Oh, I pressed down on the enter key too much. Ivan Novak, or the Hammer, is motivated by money most of all, Gray continues. He takes over territories to expand his businesses and look for ways to launder. So, the solution is simple. If we take away his money and threaten his livelihood, we take away his power. We can't keep relying on fistfights to solve our problems. We need to hit him where it actually hurts. The problem is, Gray pauses, I know Ivan uses a warehouse he owns as his main place of operation, but I don't actually know where that is. Wait, seriously? I thought you and Jed were in business with him, Nikki interjects. It's true that Gray and I sometimes play poker with Ivan, but we don't socialize much outside of that, Jed answers. Couldn't you host a poker game at the warehouse? Nikki asks. Gray shakes his head in dissent. Ivan is incredibly secretive about this sort of thing, he replies. He has hardly ever invited me to his apartment, let alone showed me his secret operations center. Maybe we should stick to fighting. We could just straight up challenge Riverside to a fight, Sarah suggests boldly. Now it's Nikki who's shaking his head no. Part of the reason the Riversiders have been so successful through Ivan's leadership is because he never leads them into a fight unless he knows he can win. Novak rarely fights head-on unless he can guarantee some sort of advantage. And my cat wants to come back in. Novak rarely fights head-on unless he can guarantee some sort of advantage, Nikki continues. I'm not in the game. When scoping out new territory locations, he waits to attack until he's confident in his numbers, how many people he has, how many people are inside, and how long it'll take for backup to arrive. So it's hopeless then? One gang member asks. I guess we shouldn't have expected much. Riverside has been beating both of us for a decade now, another says dejectedly. That's not what Nikki's saying. We just need to find where Ivan's warehouse is and take them by surprise, Gray asserts. When they lay the problem out so clearly, the answer seems so clear to me. So let's scout it out. We'll have a bunch of us go out and follow however many Riversiders we can find. One of them is bound to lead us back to the warehouse. And then whoever finds it will text the rest of us, I suggest. That should work. We'll take volunteers for scouts and decide on a central location for the rest of us to stand by, Gray says. There's a noticeable shift in the air as our two gangs join together to forge together a plan, an electric energy that's boosting our collective mood. Everyone is excited for this. Tonight, everything changes. If all goes smoothly, there won't be a need for gangs and leaders and fights anymore. With Riverside defeated, the remaining Academy gang and the Capos will agree to coexist peacefully. This will be the final appearance of the Valkyrie and the Phantom. There will be no more pressure from anyone for me to come out of my desperate retirement, no more guilt about not stepping in sooner to assist my former friends. I can't wait. By the time the evening comes, the plan is fully in motion. Most of us are here at the park where Gray and I first bumped into each other all those years ago, ready to leave at a moment's notice. The rest of us are out searching for Ivan's warehouse and tracking the Riversiders, dressed in dark hoodies to avoid drawing attention. While we wait for news, Gray and I walk side by side through the park's green grass. Can you believe it's been 10 years since we met? He asks. I remember our first meeting so clearly. You were beautiful, feisty, interesting. Gray trails off, appearing to be deep in thought as he reminisces. What was your impression of me back then? I mostly remember you as the guy who stole my phone, I say teasingly. Gray stops, his mesmerizing grey eyes meet mine, and I can see my answer didn't satisfy him. No, seriously, what did you think of me? Honestly? I ask uneasily. He nods his head, seeming genuinely curious about what I'll answer. I don't think he'll like what I have to say. I wanted nothing to do with you, I say softly. I glance over at Gray nervously, just in time to see his face fall. Why? His voice is barely a whisper. The moment I found out you were the Gray Jansen is the moment I realized I could lose everything just by associating with you. All of my friends, my best friend especially, my classmates, they all hated Da Capo High for the constant amount of crap your gang put us through. Gray nods, apparently finding my explanation acceptable. And before you found out I was Gray Jansen? He asks. I take a moment to think back. He introduced himself during our first meeting, but there was a few minutes before that where I remained blissfully ignorant. I thought you seemed capable, I recall. Someone who could handle himself in a fight, someone who could be relied on, and I thought you were considerate for lending me your jacket. I'm glad you saw me that way, Gray says. His eyes look brighter than before, but his demeanor gives off a sense of urgency. But Valkii, I think a lot of the shit you heard about Da Capo pulling was Ivan pitting us against each other. I know I heard about the Academy doing tons of stuff you would never have okayed. At the time, I believed the rumors, Gray confesses, but now, after growing so close to you, I think I know the truth. Could Gray be right? When we thought it was Da Capo High acting as a constant thorn in Kleina's Academy's side, could it have been Riverside? So you're saying that all those pranks were where one person thought they saw something that pointed to Da Capo? Might have been faked. Could have been as simple as a Riversider wearing a stolen Da Capo hoodie or planting a swiped student ID, Gray says. Now, I'm not saying it was all Ivan. Our gangs definitely pranked each other, retaliated against said pranks, and fought countless times. But I think he did just enough to ensure our number one priority was always each other and not Riverside, he finishes. It's an interesting theory, I say slowly, and it would certainly be convenient if we could both blame Riverside High for a bunch of stuff. Let's test it out, I suggest. Was it Da Capo who called the police on the former Academy gang leader, saying there were drugs in his basement? Gray shakes his head. As far as I'm aware, no. Was it the Academy who slashed the tires of the Da Capo buses the day of our school field trip? No, I exclaim. That's terrible. Before we can continue, both of our phones go off at the same time and vibrate in our pockets. We pull them out and check the message, knowing what to expect. Someone has found the location of the warehouse. It's time to go. There's a few... Oh look, isn't this the same place from the James route? There's a few Riversiders standing around right outside the building. When they look over to find nearly the entirety of the Academy and the Da Capo gang descending on them at once, they immediately call for help and assume a fighting stance. Even as dozens more Riversiders emerge from the warehouse to help, this can still scarcely be labelled a fight. Given the large population of Da Capo High, our side outnumbers our enemies 3-1. Despite our overwhelming numbers advantage, Riverside isn't going to give up so easily. I fight my way through the crowd alongside Jed, Gray, and Sarah. The four of us focus on dodging attacks, wanting to enter the heart of the operation and find where Ivan stores his cash. That's the only way this feud will ever end. Once inside, the four of us immediately start searching the place. Time is likely to not be on our side tonight. Even if Ivan's crew has orders not to call the police, any regular civilian could pass through this area at any moment. We have to move fast. With most of the Riversiders having run outside to defend their base, we're able to move quickly. Our group splits up in order to comb through the first floor more quickly. Nothing over here, Jed calls out from the northeast. Anyone else having any luck? Sarah asks. None, Gray replies. I'm going to start searching upstairs, I shout. As I race up the metal stairs, I immediately find myself head-to-head against a dark-haired woman with a long, slender scar across her collarbone. She doesn't look happy to see me. She sweeps her leg high into the air, aiming for a kick to the head. I easily dodge it, dashing in close to catch her off balance. I hit her twice, once to the throat and once to the gut. My opponent falls backwards, gasping for air and clutching at her stomach. Behind her lies a red door. I yank it open, eager to see what this girl was guarding. What I find nearly knocks the wind out of me. Plastic bags and crates everywhere. I don't need to be a genius to realize what the white substance inside of those bags mean. Cocaine? I stumble back down the stairs, seriously shaken by what I saw. You're seriously shaken by white bags? Like white substances in bags? Come on. My three friends are there to greet me as soon as I return to the first floor. What is it, Valkii? Sarah asks, concerned. Drugs, I managed to choke out. There's so much of this white powdery stuff. Cocaine, I'm guessing. Guys, there's bags of it. Though I can't see my face, I'm sure I must be pale as a ghost. Carrying around a fraction of what Ivan has stocked upstairs would get someone a hefty prison sentence if caught. Holy crap, Sarah exclaims. Seriously? Well, we're adults now. We do adult crimes now. Gray shakes his head in disbelief, cursing at himself. He'd sometimes bring his own drugs at the table, but I never imagined he'd be the actual distributor of an illegal drug trade. Judging by the amount, we're likely to be dealing with one of the biggest drug dealers in Kleina. No wonder he needs more places to launder his money. Guys, what do we do about it? Do we call the cops? We came here to destroy Ivan's money, so... Heavy footsteps dart out from behind a large pile of boxes. I feel the hairs on the back of my arms stand up as Jed and Sarah's eyes go wide. Someone is right behind me. No, Sarah screams. Gray, don't fucking get out. Yeah, he's gonna... As long as no one else takes the fucking hit. I kinda hate that. I like the main character to be in a little bit of fucking trouble and to get everyone worried. You know what I mean? Gray's hand shoots out, grabbing my wrist and yanking me towards him. I fall into Gray's side, immediately wrapping my arms around him to steady myself. Gray holds me tightly to his chest, clutching my body. I turn to see Ivan standing where I had been just seconds ago with a knife in his hand. Wow, he really has a signature, huh? If you think you can harm even a single hair on her body, you've got another thing coming. Dang! Just caked up a little bit. I narrowly escaped being stabbed by Ivan. Damn, Ivan says. Seems I was a little too slow. His eyes are dark and wrathful, yet his lips curl into a wicked smile. It's incredibly unsettling to see. Oh well, there's always next time, right? He says nonchalantly. Ivan lunges towards us, his blade catching the light as he moves. Gray pushes me towards safety and tackles Ivan head-on, managing to knock the knife out of his hands. Well, at least that's out of the way. It lands several feet away. Jed kicks it into a far corner of the warehouse, away from everyone else. Gray and Ivan grapple each other, both trying to gain the upper hand in the fight. Before any of us can help, more Riversiders run over and attack us, looking to aid Ivan in battle. By the time I manage to incapacitate my attacker and turn my attention back towards Gray, what I witness nearly makes my heart stop. Ivan has Gray pinned against the concrete floor with one hand wrapped around his throat. Gray's face is starting to turn red as he struggles against Ivan's grip. Man, I want this music to go away. You seriously think I can let you just walk away after what you saw? Ivan spits. I nearly throw myself onto him, desperately wanting to get Ivan off of Gray. Before I make the tackle, Gray catches my eye and shakes his head almost imperceptibly. Bewildered by his refusal, I stand stunned for a moment. And that's when I spot what Gray is really up to. Literally behind Ivan's back, I see Gray reach into one of Ivan's pockets and pull something out of it. All I see is a single flash of silver that gets stashed into Gray's own pocket. Then the fight is fully on. Gray takes hold of Ivan and flips the two of them so that Gray now holds the upper hand. He throws punch after punch, aiming for Ivan's head. Ivan does his best to deflect the blows, shifting out of harm's way each time. Finally, one lands, then another and another as Ivan becomes increasingly disorientated. Guys, Nikki runs over to us screaming. Someone started a fire on the other side of the building. We have to get out, now. Oh, like arson too. Signature. Oh god, not another fire. This music is too loud for my brain. Oh god, not another fire. Not more destruction. Who started it? Was it one of the Riversiders in a desperate attempt to get us out? Was it someone from the Academy or a Da Capo wanting to avenge Olympus? As if this wasn't bad enough, police sirens soon sound in the distance. Everyone outside and in starts to scatter, running as far away as they can. Gray just picks up the pace, still throwing punches. Ivan's face is bloodied and bruised. Gray, Jed warns, let's move. He doesn't acknowledge Jed. Ivan now offers little resistance against Gray's onslaught, looking completely out of it. Gray? I ask, starting to get concerned. Abruptly, Gray stands up. He wipes his bleeding knuckles onto his jeans as he observes his handiwork. Ivan lies unconscious on the ground before him. Outside, the police cars rush into a nearby road before coming to a halt. Numerous cops exit the vehicles, fully clad in tactical gear. Sarah pulls the reluctant Jed out through a rear exit, urging me to come with them. But I have to stay. Come on, I scream at Gray. Despite my desperation, I'm determined not to leave here alone. Gray finally bolts over to me, grabbing me by the hand and pulling me into a run alongside him. Together, we flee out the back entrance. Easily, we outrun the officers, most of whom stop to apprehend those left behind. Thank God the music's gone. Alright. I will see you in the next one in the epilogue.